conflict. Now, the head of the United Nations says the number of civilians killed in Gaza shows something is clearly wrong with Israel's military approach. It follows the organisation's High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk's condemnation of what he calls war crimes by both sides of the Israeli-Hamas conflict.
Turk visited the Rafah crossing on the Gaza-Egypt border last night, which is the only route for aid to enter Gaza and for civilians to leave the enclave. Well, Israeli forces say 50,000 people have fled Gaza City following its orders to civilians to move south as their troops gain ground in the territory.
Well, joining us now is political correspondent for The Times of Israel, Tal Schneider. Morning to you, Tal. Thanks for joining us. Tell us what you're experiencing there in Israel right now.
Israel is still under rocket attack day and night, maybe a little bit less in the last 24 hours. But other than that, we are being hit with rockets, probably coming from the southern part of Gaza and not from the northern part, which is now under Israel's military control. As you all seen the amazing images of, I think, probably around 100,000 people marching down under, where Israelis tanks are allowing this, because before that, the Hamas terror organization just shot at their own civilians and stopped their own civilians who were trying to escape. So now the marching continues. And on the Israeli side, we have around 200,000 internally displaced people who don't have a home. And that's the situation here.
And Tal, what do you think the long-term plan is? Obviously, we've seen, half the population of that area descend into the lower half. What happens next? Does Israel continue to move their ground forces south, or do they try and rebuild southern Gaza from the bottom up?
The first thing that has to happen is the release of 240 Israelis that are held captive. We're talking about civilians that were snatched from their homes a month and a few days, including 30 kids and many elderly. They were taken in their pajamas from their home in a Saturday morning. So as long as they're being held captive, nothing can really take place. I don't know how to stress that more stronger than that. I think Israel may go into some sort of exchange program with maybe people who are held in Israel, but it has to take place as soon as possible. After that happens, I mean, those people who are held captive by the Hamas terror organization did not get the Red Cross or any humanitarian aid or any water, food, or medicine. So we need the world to understand that, when you talk about humanitarian aid, you need to look at all aspects of this conflict, not just what's going on in Gaza. And as per the next step, it's hard for me to tell you, because I think as long as there is a military, Hamas terror military base in this big hospital, Shifa hospital, this is a tragic situation, because you have people who are wounded in the hospital, and I think doctors and nurses who are probably held captive by the Hamas as well. They don't allow them to run away. So as long as they need to evacuate this hospital in order to get into the underground tunnels, maybe the Israeli hostages are there. I mean, we don't know that. So this is a very complicated situation. It's not going to be, let's talk about the southern part of Gaza just tomorrow. It's not going to happen just like that. It's going to take time. Those things are very complicated. And I think on the Israeli side, they're doing their best in order to avoid casualties of civilian casualties. And you just seen the footage of the Israeli military allowing for the passage of people, something that the Hamas was trying to prevent. So as long as the Hamas is still in grip of the Gaza Strip and is preventing help to get to the people, both, Jewish captive, and by the way, it's not just Jewish captive. They snatched also Israeli Muslims, Bedouins, and others. As long as they're Israelis, they just snatched them. We know that they're holding captive also Muslims, originated from Israel, obviously. So as long as they're avoiding getting any assistance to these people,
Sure.
and as long as they're not allowing their own people to be entering into a safe zone, I don't know what to tell you.
Tal, the calls for a ceasefire do seem to increase by the day. Netanyahu is pretty steadfast on this, that there can't be a pause, there can't be a ceasefire until hostages are released. Is that still the case? Is that likely to always remain the case?
You must understand this. Last time, during a ceasefire, the Hamas kidnapped Israelis. I'm not talking about 2023. I'm talking about a couple of years before. They are using the ceasefire in order to shoot people and send more rockets and kidnap more people. What is the point of a ceasefire if it's only helping them to kill, murder, rape more people? So, you know, I know in the Western world, the concept of a ceasefire is something that is very, very important. But a ceasefire will bring more deaths. And Israelis, people, they know that. We have, you know, we're not talking about 100 years ago. We're talking about a couple of years ago. We did a ceasefire with them. And during the ceasefire, they kidnapped more Israelis. We can't forget those sins. We all know this is the situation. Every time we have a ceasefire, they're regrouping, they're getting the fuel and using it to launch more rockets. Do we want to see more rockets launched into our civilian population? I'm sitting here 80 kilometers from the border in an undisputed area, and during a ceasefire, we are being shot. So what is the point? The ceasefire is allowing them to regroup. They're not giving the fuel to the hospitals. They're not giving the water to the hospitals. They're using it to launch more death. It has to be clear to the Western world. This is not a ceasefire as you think of a ceasefire where both sides are doing something. They can have a ceasefire as we speak right now. They can take the hostages, take them to the border and bring them back. They will get 3 days of a ceasefire if they want to do it. It's not the point. They're, you know,
well, Tal,
what is the point
I'm so sorry to interrupt you there, but we have run out of time, sadly. But thank you for joining us, Tal Schneider.